There's a silence to the Mojave that doesn't feel like silence at all. It's pregnant, filled with whispers that only the wind can comprehend, layered with ancient secrets buried beneath 1,000 years of sun-baked sand. On nights like this, the stars hang low, weighty and slow, as if waiting for something to happen. Something extraordinary. I stood alone in that desert, boots sinking into gritty earth, the faint glow of my off-road Jeep a dim beacon behind me. My name is Evan Mitchell, a geologist who once thought that life's greatest mysteries lay in stratified minerals and prehistoric fossils. I'm 32, pragmatic, rational, or I was, until the boundary between dreams and waking life began to dissolve. It started with the static. A soft, insistent pulse on the radio that shouldn't have been there, like Morse code from nowhere. Then came the dreams, vivid, disorienting, and impossibly real. Dreams of endless starlit deserts, of voices carried across cosmic tides. Melodies that felt less like dreams and more like memories I'd never lived. And tonight, I followed them. The horizon shimmered in the distance, far beyond where the Bureau's faded signs warned of restricted land. The desert itself seemed to be pulsing, alive with unseen breath. A low hum vibrated through the ground, too quiet for sound, but impossible to ignore. My fingers tightened around the straps of my pack as the air around me changed, warmed, thickened, buzzed with energy. Something was coming. It started as a glow, faint but deliberate, bleeding into the night like dawn rising in reverse. The air rippled, silent but forceful, bending light into itself. Every instinct in my body told me to move it, to run, but I stayed. Rooted in some pull that went beyond reason. The wind stopped. The stars blinked. And she stepped through. She didn't emerge from the horizon so much as unfold from it, as if the universe had gently parted its curtain to let her through. She floated, not walked, her long silver limbs gliding inches above the desert floor. She was humanoid, yes, but in the same way a statue might resemble a person. Sculpted. Transcendent. Her skin was like liquid metal, shifting shades between silver and mercury. Her eyes glowed a deep violet, so deep it felt like looking into a nebula. Her hair was, not hair at all, but a cascade of shimmering starlight, wavering in an invisible breeze. Everything about her was beautiful and terrifying. Time collapsed. My heartbeat stumbled into silence. I don't know how long I stared, seconds, minutes, eons, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My mind was ceaseless wheels, spinning faster than I could think. That's when I realized I was staring at her body. Some primitive part of me registered her shape, lithe, elegant, hauntingly familiar in a way that stirred some deep instinct. And she saw it. She saw everything. Her lips curved into a slow smile, knowing, ancient, and quietly amused. So, she said, her voice a symphony of silk and light, you find my body attractive, Earthling. The words shattered my paralysis. I blinked hard, and suddenly I was aware of myself again. My hands trembled. My throat was dry. Nothing came out. I was choking on disbelief, awe, and a dozen questions colliding like meteors in my skull. She hovered closer, starborn and impossibly serene. I am Leary, she continued. And you, Evan Mitchell, have been calling for me. That landed like a thunderclap. My heart thudded, clumsy. I called? I didn't. I didn't call anyone. Her head tilted, starlight hair gathering around her like mist. Those violet eyes saw through me. You were asleep, she said. But your mind was not. Your dreamscape opened a passage. Your thoughts reached beyond your world. And I answered. Fragments of the dream flickered in my mind, a sky awash with constellations, a whisper floating in the dark, a presence beside me. It was too vivid, too tangible, not to mean something. You dreamed of me, she said softly. And dreams are language. Bridges. I didn't know what to say. She was right, somehow. I couldn't explain it. I just knew. You're not hostile, I finally managed to force out. Hostile? She smiled, almost tender. If I meant you harm, why would I appear alone? The desert wind stirred again, shifting the sand at our feet. And then, just as suddenly, it stopped. The Earth moves beneath us, Leary said. Your world is shifting. It stands on the cusp of choosing what it will become. I frowned. What do you mean? She closed her eyes, and the air around her shimmered. When she opened them again, they glowed brighter, full of unimaginable stars. There are those in the void who see your species as dust to be swept away. Others who see you as potential to be manipulated. I am neither. She drifted closer, so close I could feel the faint warmth of her presence, even though she didn't truly touch the ground. I came because you listened, she said. Because you heard the vibrations your world tries to suppress. You opened a door. And once a door is opened, others will come. A tremor rippled through the sand, subtle at first, then stronger, like a warning from the bones of the earth. What is that? I asked, backing up. Her eyes narrowed. They have sensed me. Who? I didn't get to finish. The ground exploded, a violent burst of sand and debris blasting into the air. Something beneath the surface had awakened. Leary's expression shifted, no longer soft, no longer curious, but fierce. Others, she said. Predators. Shadows drawn to interference. And then she turned, levitating up and away, hovering above the sand like a living beacon. She reached out to me. Follow, she said. Now. Where? Anywhere else. The desert roared back to life. I didn't hesitate. Adrenaline surged. I ran, stumbling through the sand, dodging the rising dust, hearing something massive claw its way toward us from beneath the surface. My mind raced with one thought. The dreams weren't just dreams. And I was no longer alone. The desert night had always felt infinite, vast enough to swallow all noise and soothe any terror. But not now. Not with the creature tearing its way out of the ground like a nightmare taking physical shape. With the sand still erupting behind us, I sprinted toward the jeep, my boots struggling to find leverage as the ground pulsed beneath my feet. Leary hovered beside me, her movements fluid and precise, untouched by the chaos, as though she weren't bound by the physics of this place. Keep going, she urged, her voice steady despite the growing tremor in the air. I didn't look back. I didn't want to. But the sound, that unholy, guttural roar, was impossible to ignore. It pierced the night, echoing across the horizon like the bellow of some colossal beast that belonged nowhere on Earth. By the time I reached the jeep and flung open the driver's door, I was out of breath and half convinced I'd wake up in bed at any moment. I jammed the key in, turned it, and felt an unbearable relief when the engine coughed to life. Leary floated into the passenger seat, never touching the upholstery, her violet eyes glowing like twin suns. The creature lunged. I floored the gas pedal. The jeep lurched forward, tires biting into loose sand as we skidded and accelerated. The headlights flicked over dunes and scattered brush, but they couldn't show me the thing behind us, the thing roaring and charging with weight that made the earth tremble in time with its strides. What is that thing? I shouted over the engine. One of many, Leary replied calmly. An echo. A predator bound to hunger and interference. A predator of what? Possibility. That is not an answer. She didn't respond with words. Instead, she raised her hand. The air inside the jeep shimmered. I could feel something shift, not like heat or wind, but like my body was passing through layers of itself. An impossible sensation, like becoming temporarily invisible to gravity. Outside, the creature let out another roar, its massive figure caught in the swirling dust of our wake. I dared one glance in the side mirror. I wish I hadn't. It was hideous. For massive legs, part skeletal, part muscular, skin so pale it almost glowed. Sections of its flesh were translucent, pulsing with veins that radiated a crimson-black light. Its mouth was an open horror lined with jagged teeth and dripping black fluid that sizzled when it hit the sand. It was gaining on us. Faster. I yelled, pushing the pedal to the floor. The jeep moaned in protest but powered forward. The speedometer needle jerked and vibrated, 40 miles per hour, 50-60, but the terrain was rough, uneven, unpredictable. Leary's hand glowed brighter, and suddenly, everything changed. The Jeep lifted. Literally lifted. The tires lifted an inch, then two, then hovered completely above the ground, somehow still moving, still carrying our momentum, but now free of friction. The world around us rippled with a pulse of blue light, and the roar of the creature began to fade behind us, swallowed by the unnatural hum that filled our ears and nerves. My stomach lurched. "Hold on," Leary said softly. And then we weren't in the desert anymore. There was a flash, a burst of light that wasn't light, pure energy shredding the air between seconds. Space folded, not outward, but inward, collapsing and reforming, like the universe was rolling itself inside out to make room for us. Then we were on asphalt. The Jeep dropped back to the road with a metallic groan, tires skidding, then catching. My hands clenched the wheel. My breath caught somewhere between choking and prayer. I slammed on the brakes, and the Jeep skidded to a stop right on the shoulder of what looked like a stretch of Route 66. Everything was still. The stars, though, were wrong. Different. Subtle, but unmistakable. A constellation slightly out of place. A cluster of lights that shouldn't exist in this part of the sky. My voice trembled. "Where are we?" Leary turned her gaze upward. Her starlit hair drifted without wind, as though she were still caught in the momentum of whatever she'd done. "We crossed a boundary," she said. "A crease in reality. A place where one dimension breathes against another." "Crossed like a multiverse?" "Not exactly. Your words lack the nuance. But yes. We are somewhere adjacent to where we were." I swallowed hard. How did that thing find us?" "You said it came from interference. Every thought you send into the void creates a ripple," she explained. "Every dream, every fear. Your mind has awakened to frequencies beyond this world," and echoes answer. "Okay. Great. So my mind caused a cosmic collision." "Your mind opened a door," she said. "And not every door leads to sanctuary." A rumbling in the distance broke the silence, a semi-truck barreling down the road, headlights sweeping over our Jeep but not slowing. To the driver, we were just another dusty vehicle pulled off on the shoulder. Nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing to see here. But everything had changed. Leary stepped out of the Jeep without opening the door, simply passing through it like it was made of smoke. I stared as she floated to the center of the road and looked back at me. "You see now," she said. "The veil is thin. Your species will soon have to choose. To remain oblivious and perish, or awaken and evolve." "Evolve into what?" I asked, stepping out too, legs shaking. "More dreamers? More targets?" She let the silence stretch between us. The wind picked up, stirring dust at her feet. "You asked, why me?" she said at last. "Why your dreams? Why your mind?" "Yeah. I still want to know." She approached slowly, starlight woven through the strands of her hair. "You are the first in this time. But you will not be the last. Many will hear the call. Most will ignore it, fear it. You didn't. I didn't know that call would bring that thing after me." Leary almost smiled. Not amused. Not pleasant. Just understanding. "Fear and choice walk side by side," she said. "Always." She turned her head and looked toward the desert, though now it was a different desert, under a different sky. The same roads, perhaps. But a different reality. A different layer of existence. And I was standing here beside a being who didn't belong. Who might have been sent to protect, or warn, or both. "What now?" I asked. The wind stilled. Something intangible shifted in the air. I sensed it even before her eyes met mine. "Now, Evan Mitchell, you decide whether to walk away, or walk with me." I felt something in my chest, a spark I didn't understand. Fear, yes. Curiosity. But also something else. Something I didn't want to name yet. There was no path forward except the one I was already on. I took a breath. Met her gaze. And I understood, maybe not the full scope of it, but enough. I'm not walking away, I said. She nodded once. The desert held its breath. And as we stood under a sky of reimagined stars, I realized that destiny wasn't a path you followed. It was a pulse you answered. And mine had just begun.